Hello, my name's Ellese and this is Unit 2 of our Forest School course on coppicing. Today we're going to be coppicing hazel. So the first thing you want to do is identify your hazel. So there's a hazel tree behind me. You can't really see it all too well just because of the technical difficulties I'm experiencing. There it is, very beautiful. Let me just get that right. Oh gosh, go on, stay there. Right. So, how to identify hazel. It has multiple poles. This is an old coppice, and you can tell that by the fact that there are multiple poles growing from the stem. The bark, smooth and light brown. The leaves are like this, tooth-edged, with a point, and a bit furry. So the leaves appear in spring and they stay till late summer, and then you get the fruits. Believe it or not, they actually produce hazelnuts, but we don't usually get to see it in our country because the squirrels get there first, and then they will go on to bloom with catkins. I don't know if bloom's the right word, but yeah, they will get catkins on them which look like wiggly worms. So, things to consider when you are felling your hazel tree. First things to consider is your surrounding space. Is it clear? Are there things in the way? Is there a public footpath? Are members of the public going to go past? If so, you might want to get a lookout. How far away are the other people? They need to at least be the length of the pole times 2 away. So obviously that's an approximation. You also need to consider any intertwining tops, because that could interfere with how your branch falls. And then you also need to consider escape routes. So when felling your hazel, or coppicing it rather, you want to always cut at about a 45-degree angle. That's to allow any runaway water to come off, to reduce the chance of decay. Also, you always want to coppice generally in the winter months, because that's why we're not going to be doing any coppicing today, because there could be birds nesting in the tops, and also there will be sugar in the poles, and that is a food supply for many insects, and we don't want to take that food supply away. And what we want to do is we want to wait until the biomass underneath the root system, which mirrors the system above ground, takes all that sugar into its roots, and that way when we do coppice, we reduce the chance of there being any decay. Oh, whoops. So we want to cut at a 45-degree angle. We want to go from the outside in. We want to use our bow saw, which is in the safety area, with a cover on it. And when we're using our bow saw, we want to make sure we've got our safety gloves on. The opposing hand, because to the saw, the hand we're using the saw, because it can slip. And we want to make sure we work from the outside in. We want to make sure there's also a place to put our poles after we're finished, and we want to cut as low to the ground as possible. So, I think that's everything. What are the benefits of coppicing? So, although it looks to be quite a destructive act, it's actually a very creative act, because it brings about new poles, new life. It increases the age of the tree greatly. Usually a hazel tree will last about 80 years and you'll extend that lifespan greatly. But you also help to increase biodiversity in our ecosystem, because you allow more sunlight to get through to the forest floor, and then that allows space for things like bluebells and dog violets to grow, which in turn feeds our insects, feeds our birds, and so forth. So it's very important for our ecosystem to have this biodiversity in place because we all are very codependent. So it's a beautiful thing that you're doing if you do it respectfully. The coppicing process for the hazel can take place from about 5 to 15 years. Obviously, when you do it sooner, the poles will be thinner, which might be optimal depending on what you're using your poles for. So that is all, I believe. Wind direction, make sure you've got the right tools and equipment, make sure you've identified it accurately, and make sure you're doing it at the right time of year. And then off you go, from the outside in. Don't get in the way of the falling poles because you'll get squashed. So yeah, use a bit of common sense. That was Unit 2 of our Forest School course on coppicing hazel. So I'll let you have a little look at that hazel tree one last time. And that's the end.